everyone, and welcome to today's video. I am going to be taking you along for 2 nights in the kitchen with me to show you some of my favorite sheet pan meals. These are healthy and they're super easy and they're really yummy. So thanks for coming along and spending some time in the kitchen with me, and I hope you enjoy. For tonight's what's for dinner, I am going to be doing a pretty simple sheet pan meal, and I love sheet pan meals because they are so easy to make and they are super yummy. When I discovered them, it was like a total game changer. So tonight's is going to be a panko crusted chicken and then asparagus, and I love doing the panko crusted chicken because it's kind of like a healthier take on fried chicken. It has sort of like a similar taste and texture, but instead of being fried, it is baked. And then the asparagus is going to be our fries, and I'm going to do them with a little bit of parmesan, and then I'm going to be also doing a bagged salad. So it doesn't really get easier than a bagged salad. So this should be a pretty easy, simple, healthy meal to make for dinner. So let's get started. All right, so here are the ingredients you're going to need. You're going to need some chicken breast, and I like to get the thin slice cutlets just because I'm like always terrified of undercooking meat, so I get really nervous when I do the thick chicken breast, and then I tend to overcook it. So I feel like I'm just a little better at doing the thin slice, and I just kind of like the way they cook up. And then you're going to need just 1 egg, some Parmesan cheese and salt. That is actually for the asparagus, and I actually normally do this with fresh asparagus. I just didn't have that, so I did this frozen, which I've never done, so could get interesting, but hopefully it will turn out just fine. Then I have my little measuring utensils here. I'm going to use this for our little panko bread mixture. So you need panko breadcrumbs, and I like to get some that do have a little bit of seasoning already on them. And then I am going, we like a little bit not like super spice, but just a little more flavor to it. So I do have my paprika, my pepper, and then I like to splash in a little bit of dill weed. And then again, this is just some spray olive oil we'll be using too. So that is really all you need to make this meal. So again, pretty simple. All right, so before I do anything, I am just going to take my cooking spray, my olive oil cooking spray, and just lightly spray my foil that I have placed on my baking sheet. And you don't have to use a baking, or you don't have to use foil. This is slightly easier cleanup. That's what I do. And then I'm just gonna set that aside, and now I am going to make my panko crumb sort of combo. And I like to do it in just a short little glass dish like this, just because the chicken fits in it nicely when we start dipping the chicken into it. So I have my recipe written down here because no matter how many times I make this, I always kind of forget the portion. So I know you're gonna start with 1 cup of panko breadcrumbs. And these smell so good. I don't know, whenever I'm cooking, I like to like smell everything as I'm going. I don't know if I'm weird or if other people do that too. All right, so that is about 1 cup of breadcrumbs, and I'm going to pour it into my tray here, and then kind of spread that out evenly. And then after I do that, that is when I start in with my little seasoning combo here. So it says to use about ½ a teaspoon of salt, or actually ½ a tablespoon of salt. But since I use this Himalayan salt with a grinder, I just kind of grind on top to taste. I have done too much salt before, so I try to avoid that. But anyways, it does say to use ½ a tablespoon of salt. Then after I do that, I'm going to add in my paprika, and I love the paprika. I feel like this is like one of the most important ingredients because it adds so much flavor to it. And you're actually going to do a full tablespoon of that. And I'm going to just empty this out on top of the mixture because If any spills over, that is totally fine with me. Actually, to make this go a little faster, I think I'm going to take this cap off. There we go. So I got a full tablespoon of paprika here, a little extra, and that is fine with me because I love the flavor it adds. And then last, we are going to do 1/4 a teaspoon of black pepper. So 1/4 a teaspoon black pepper. And I'm going to add that in. And again, this just gives it a little bit of a kick to it. And I always do a little more because my husband does like a little bit of a kick to it. And you're mixing this all in, so it's going to kind of coat the chicken. It won't be super strong. And then dill is not a part of the recipe. I have just added that before and really liked it. So I am going to sprinkle a little bit of dill on the top. Since I'm making this with Greek salad, I feel like dill has that like Greek taste to it. So, and then I'm just going to use my spoon here, and I'm going to mix this all together. And I'm going to show you guys. I like to mix it to where the paprika and the pepper, you can kind of see it all throughout the mixture. And I try to make sure, for some reason, I feel like the paprika always like wants to hide on the bottom. So I got to kind of scoop it back up to the top. But see how that is just now kind of evenly mixed. Kind of a nice peachy color now. And then I'm just going to set that, and I like to set it right next to my baking sheet, so when I'm transferring the chicken, it's just easy and stuff isn't dripping everywhere. Because touching raw meat and chicken, I still just kind of grosses me out. So I'm going to move these seasonings aside because we're done with them, so you can see what I'm doing here. So now you're going to take your measuring cup again, and you're just going to add in 1 egg. And sometimes I end up doing 2, but we'll start with 1. Just going to set that egg aside, and if you want to, you can sprinkle in a little bit of extra salt and pepper and paprika into your egg mixture, but it's not totally necessary. So now I'm just going to mix this up, and let me grab a fork real quick. All right, I'm back with my fork, so I'm just going to whisk this together. And actually, looking at it, I think I am going to go ahead and add 2 eggs. That just makes dipping it a lot easier. So I'm not the best at cracking eggs, so no judging here. All right, I'm going to mix that together. And that looks good to me. So again, I try to do like a little assembly line. That's my oven telling me that is preheated. That's what that beep is for. But I try to do a little assembly line. So I have my chicken right here, and I'm not going to use all of these, but I got my chicken, my eggs, my panko mixture, and my pan. So this is kind of the grimy part. If you're like me and don't really like touching meat, it's okay. We can get through it together. And this is just a chunk of fat. I'm going to pull that off. So take your chicken, dump it straight into the eggs. And I actually burned my hand yesterday cooking, so I'm trying to be careful. So I do have a little bit of burn there. And then you're just going to drop it right into the mixture one way, and then flip it over and drop it on the other side. And then I like to kind of go in with my hands and just sprinkle a little extra mixture on top. And then you just set it right on to your baking sheet. And you just do that with however many chicken breasts you think your family's gonna want. And it's actually really fun to do. Like I said, I I still get a little creeped out when I'm doing like touching raw meat. I don't know if I said this earlier, but before I got married a few years ago, I really did not cook at all, and especially not meat. I actually ate mostly vegetarian, but now I do cook us some meat, and yeah, still getting used to touching it, even though it's been like over 3 years. So there we go. I've spread out those out evenly onto my pan, and they are ready to go into the oven. I'm gonna go wash my hands. All right, now we are going to get started on our asparagus. Again, I just put some foil down on a baking sheet. I am going to spray it with a little olive oil spray. And then again, typically I would use fresh ones. I've never done this before, so hopefully we have success here. But I'm just gonna drop those out onto the tray here. Stir that up a little bit, just like that. And that bag doesn't have a ton, which is good, because I feel like whenever I get the fresh, there's like a ton and I never can eat all of it. So I'm gonna set that aside, and now I'm gonna actually use the same olive oil spray to spray the asparagus. I like this one is running a little low. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to go back over it with some of my pink Himalayan salt. And something about grinding this always makes me feel like I know what I'm doing. Okay, and then I'm going to roll that around a little bit. I'm just going to kind of toss the asparagus and the salt. And then on top of that, I am going to also sprinkle some Parmesan cheese. And you just sprinkle however much you like. I tend to like a lot of cheese. My husband is not as crazy about cheese as me, so I won't go too crazy. And then I'm again just gonna kind of roll that around in the salt and the Parmesan mixture, and pop these in the oven with the chicken. And I'll probably check on them because it is set to 375. I can't remember if I said that. You bake the chicken at 375 and just check on it and take it out when you feel like it is ready for your liking. And then I'm just going to check this as we go to make sure I don't burn it. But since it's frozen, I'm thinking it might need a little bit longer. This is dinner. It is ready to be eaten, and it looks and smells absolutely delicious. Thanks for cooking with me tonight. Welcome back to my kitchen. I'm excited to cook with you all again. Tonight I am making another super easy sheet pan meal. And this is actually one of my favorite ones, and it is probably the simplest one to do. And I got my little sous chef with me here. Can you say hi, Caroline? Hi there. Oh, you're gonna wave. She loves to cook in the kitchen with me. Normally, she is with me in here, and I kind of talk to her as I cook, like I'm gonna do with y'all. The other night, she was a little fussy, so I sent her upstairs to what I like to call a daddy daycare. But she is back tonight and ready to cook. Are you ready? I'm so ready. All right, let's These are the only ingredients you're gonna need. Some fresh green beans. I am also using some pre-cut sweet potatoes, making it super easy for myself. Some olive oil, Italian seasoning pack, and this is actually the pack you would get to make salad dressing, but it is awesome. I love these things. They add so much good flavor. You can use, like I use them in soups. You can use them for sheet pan meals like we're gonna do tonight, but I get the zesty one because it just adds a little bit more of a flavor to it. And then I'm going to mix my olive oil, mix in my little measuring cup here, And then I have some chicken breast. And like I said, I like to get the thin slice just because I think it's easier and slightly quicker to cook. Tonight, I don't think I will be using all of these, but I may. We'll just see. And then I have my pan over here. Yes, it looks kind of grimy, but I'm going to cover it with foil. So anyways, those are the only ingredients that you need. And the first thing we're going to do is cut up the green beans. All right, so now the first thing we are going to do is cut off the tips or ends of our green beans and then lay them on our pan. So let's go ahead and cut those up. Put you guys here, and I lit a candle to kind of create a nice ambiance while we cook together. But I'm sure there might be an easier way to do this, but I like to just cut off the ends so you just kind of have the fresh, nice green bean. And if I can, I kind of bunch them up at the same time and lay them all flat to just get a bunch at one time so it doesn't take me forever to do this. But yeah. Forgot to mention is this little petite medley of potatoes. So I have washed the potatoes I'm going to use, and I have like little golden ones, red potatoes, and then these like dark purple potatoes. I don't know what these are called, but I really like them. But anyways, I am just going to cut them up in like, sometimes I do halves, sometimes I cut them up into 4, but just about this size. And then I'm going to set them on my pan, and I like to mix them up so they're all sort of spread out, and it makes it look very pretty and colorful as well. Starting to look gorgeous with all these veggies. So before I add on my chicken, what I'm going to do is make our little seasoning mixture, and this is pretty fail proof. So I'm going to take my Italian salad dressing seasoning pack, and I'm just going to pour it in. Yeah, you like it? I'm just going to pour it into my little measuring cup and make sure I get it all out. And then the original recipe actually called for butter, but I substitute with olive oil. And I've made it both ways, and it honestly tastes just the same. So I'm going to stay a little bit on the healthier side with the olive oil. So I'm going to take my olive oil, and I just measure in about 3 capfuls. Yeah, it's good stuff. 1, 2, and 3. And that is going to be typically enough to spread around my whole pan. So now, once you have that, all you have to do is stir it all together. And I just like to make sure it's nice and pretty thick. So that is ready. I'm going to set that aside and go get our chicken. All right, so now we are going to add our chicken breast here in the center. And I want to save some of this for what I am making tomorrow. So, all right, so our pan is ready with our chicken and our vegetables. And now all we have to do is drizzle on our yummy seasoning. So again, I'm going to mix it up again real quick. And then what I like to do is just take a spoon and just kind of drizzle on top. And you may think like, gosh, do I have enough? But once it starts cooking up, the juices really kind of spread it around. And it is plenty enough to season all the chicken and the veggies. And when I tell you this stuff is so good, it is delicious, and as it's cooking, it makes the house smell amazing. And then this is ready to go into the oven. I am going to cook it at 350, and it does cook for about an hour. But one very important step that you don't want to miss is you're going to cover it with foil. So very important. I have forgotten to do that before, and it was very dry. So don't forget to do that. You're gonna cover this with foil and then pop it in the oven for about an hour. So I will check back with you guys later.